talking about toys. During this time of year, many are in full Christmas mode, buying all the popular games, toys, and items on their children's Christmas list. But while you're trying to find that perfect gift, experts in toy safety want you to remember that safety is the #1 priority. Carlos Flores, a trauma coordinator for the Pediatric Trauma Center at Valley Children's Hospital, is here to tell us some tips. Hi, Carlos. How are you today?
Desiree, it's always a great pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you for being here. Carlos, first of all, we need to tell our viewers what is something that parents should keep in mind to keep their kids safe while playing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and in fact, we got to let Santa know that too, because he's in full bore right now, right?
Exactly.
So just remember, we'll start with the little ones. So little kids, the cruisers, when they're out on the floor exploring the world, they often will explore with their mouth. So that means things go into their mouth. That's what gets them into problems. So little kids, big toys, much like what we have on display right here. Where we have a problem is if a child who is age appropriate will receive a toy that has many small parts to it, and then the younger sibling gets a hold of these smaller parts, then that poses a problem with potential choking. And so we know that if you have those scenarios and you have any concern about whether or not a toy is large enough for a child of young age, one of these little devices will help. And so if you have, this indicates whether a toy is small enough to block the airway or the esophagus of a small child.
Oh, wow.
If it fits in there, then it's too small of a toy. But most people can't get access to this thing, so the simple way to do it, simple toilet paper roll. If it fits through the toilet paper roll, then it's usually too small for a child, usually 3 years or younger.
You know what, that is so interesting to know, because everyone has a toilet paper at home. Like, they really do, and it's so easy to just kind of check and make sure that your kid is safe by just throwing something in here, making sure that they're not going to suffocate.
That's right.
And then, of course, Carlos, what if your child, you know, it's already going, it's suffocating? What should you do when that happens?
Every family, every person really needs to have CPR training, and that's across the board, whether we have children or not. CPR training does include a component of what to do when a person is choking, including what to do when a child is choking. Essentially, if they're 1 year or younger, what you have to do is flip them over and then pound on their back with their head lower than the rest of their body. A lot of people will slap the child's back while they're still sitting up, and that actually causes it to become worse. And then after 1 year of age, using the Heimlich maneuver or the abdominal thrusts. But again, there's training involved with that. Very simple maneuver to do, but everyone should have CPR training.
You know, that's really important, and people forget how important it is to have CPR training.
Absolutely.
And of course, working at a hospital, what is the #1 injury you've seen that happens when it comes to, you know, injuries with the toy?
Well, with toys, the two major problems that we have, as I had mentioned, the first is choking, and then with the older sets, is once they have wheels underneath their body and gain mobility, is pretty severe head injuries. And so that's why we have the helmet out here that is to remind us that anytime a child receives a bike, skates, scooter, anything with wheels underneath them, they really need to have protection, especially of their head. Now, with regards to skates and skateboards, you can add the added protection of wrist guards, elbow guards, and knee pads if you'd like. But the most important component is with protecting the head. We know that for those who have helmets or who wear helmets during those activities, they have an 80% less chance of obtaining a serious head injury.
Wow. And of course, I do see a balloon light here. I know that that's also another cause, right, of suffocation sometimes as well, right?
That's
like, what do you recommend for people to do? Because, you know, balloons are at parties, they're everywhere.
Right.
Like, what do you recommend for parents to do to kind of just take care of their kids while they're holding the balloon? What do you recommend?
Well, certainly, if a family chooses to have a balloon at whatever festivity they have, just to be very mindful of it. The danger comes not when the balloon is inflated, but when it is deflated. So if you have a deflated balloon or a popped balloon, make sure to pick up those pieces quickly, especially if you have a little one crawling around. Because what will happen, or what can happen, is that child can ingest it, suck it down into their windpipe, into their trachea, where it creates a one-way valve. And so as they're breathing in, it closes off. They're trying to breathe out, it opens up, they breathe back in, it closes off. So that can be a very, very dangerous situation. We've had many of those, unfortunately, out at Valley Children's.
And of course, you know, nowadays people are always wearing earbuds. I'm pretty sure that's something that's going to cause some issues right in the long run.
That certainly can. We know that the decibel levels for earbuds can go up pretty high. up just over 100 decibels. And so we know that it's pretty equivalent to being near a jet engine. And you think about kids, the older kids that keep those things in, 24/7 almost, it seems like. They essentially need to have a break, some limitations on that. In addition to that, a lot of kids will receive cell phones nowadays. We highly recommend obtaining a protection on that, a surveillance kind of a program so that the parents know exactly what their kids are getting into. We've seen case after case after case where children are susceptible to people that are doing them harm over the internet. In addition to that, parents remember, this is my cell phone. I'm allowing you to use it, so that means you give me the password to this.
Exactly.
And if no password, no phone.
Exactly. So, Carlos, before we go, just what do you recommend for people to be getting this Christmas for their kids?
I recommend whatever to do as you can to answer yes to the child's wishes. I mean, within reason. However, be very, very mindful of the protection labels that are on the packages, and to be very, very mindful about the capabilities of that child. Not every child is going to be ready to ride a bike or ride a skateboard at the same time or same stage of development. So be very mindful of that.
Great. Thank you so much for being here, Carlos.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.